The millionaire's son was between life and death, until the nanny made an unbelievable discovery. Rebecca Mitchell arrived at the Harrison mansion on a rainy March morning, carrying only a small suitcase and 20 years of experience caring for children. What she didn't expect was to find a family shattered by despair and a 3-year-old boy who had been wasting away without explanation for 4 months. Daniel Harrison could barely look at her when he opened the living room door. His unkempt grey hair and red eyes betrayed sleepless nights. "Are you the new nanny?" he asked, his voice hoarse from crying. "I'm Rebecca Mitchell, Mr. Harrison. I've come to take care of Nathan," she replied, noticing how his hands trembled as he held the papers. "I need you to understand something." Daniel stopped halfway up the marble staircase, unable to face her. "My son is very sick. The doctors don't know what's wrong with him. I've fired 3 nannies in the last 2 weeks. They couldn't stand to see." He didn't finish the sentence, but Rebecca understood the weight of those words. During her 20 years caring for children in poor neighborhoods of New York, she had learned that sometimes what doctors couldn't see, an experienced mother could discover. "May I see him now?" asked Rebecca, removing her shoes to avoid making noise. Daniel led her down the hallway, lined with Persian rugs, to a spacious room overlooking the garden. The golden curtains filtered the morning light, creating a soft and welcoming atmosphere. But what Rebecca saw on the bed broke her heart. Nathan Harrison was a boy too small for his 3 years. His pale skin contrasted with his dark brown hair, and his little brown eyes seemed huge in his thin face. He was awake, quietly playing with a blue toy car, but Rebecca immediately noticed that something was very wrong. "Hi, Nathan," she said, approaching slowly. "I'm Aunt Rebecca. I've come to play with you." The boy looked at her curiously but didn't smile. Rebecca noticed he was breathing with some difficulty and that his little hands were thinner than they should be. "Daddy said you're going to stay here?" asked Nathan in a weak little voice. "Yes, my love, if you want me to." Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed, observing every detail. "Are you feeling well today?" So, replied the boy, lowering his eyes. "My stomach always hurts after I eat." Daniel, who was watching from the door, sighed heavily. "The doctors have examined everything. They've done every possible test. Dr. Michael Thompson, the best pediatrician in New York, said it might be something rare, but he couldn't figure out what." Rebecca continued talking softly with Nathan, but her mind was already working. In 2 decades of caring for children, she had developed a sharp instinct for identifying problems that went unnoticed. And something about this situation didn't make sense. "Mr. Harrison, can you tell me exactly when Nathan started getting sick?" she asked, still playing with the toy car alongside the boy. "It was in November. He was fine, eating normally, playing. Suddenly he started losing his appetite. Then came the vomiting, the stomach pains, the weakness." Daniel ran his hand through his hair. "My ex-wife thinks it's my fault for working too much. She moved to her mother's house when Nathan got sick." Rebecca sensed the pain in the man's voice. Besides facing his son's mysterious illness, he was dealing with the end of his marriage and the guilt that came with it. "And what does Nathan usually eat?" she asked, pretending to be distracted by the play. "The cook prepares everything specially for him. Nutritious food, soups, vitamins. Mrs. Dorothy has worked here for 15 years. She's known Nathan since he was born." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Rebecca spent the rest of the morning observing Nathan. She noticed he would play a little but soon grew tired. When lunchtime came, she went down with him to the kitchen. The mansion's kitchen was impressive, with marble countertops, modern appliances, and a pantry that looked like a small market. Mrs. Dorothy, a woman of about 50 with graying hair tied in a bun, was preparing a soup that smelled wonderful. "So you're the new nanny," Dorothy said without looking up from the pot. "I hope you last longer than the others." "Good morning, Mrs. Dorothy. I'm Rebecca." She tried to be friendly, but sensed a certain coldness in the reception. "Nathan, my boy, come eat your soup," called Dorothy, serving a generous portion in a colorful children's bowl. Rebecca watched closely as Nathan sat at the small table reserved for him. The soup had fresh vegetables, shredded chicken, and smelled delicious. Any child would be drooling, but Nathan looked at the bowl with an expression Rebecca recognized immediately. It was fear. "What's wrong, sweetie? Aren't you hungry?" she asked, crouching beside him. "I want to eat, Aunt Rebecca, but then my tummy will hurt," whispered Nathan, glancing nervously at Dorothy. "Nonsense," the cook interjected, her tone sharper. "This soup has everything you need to grow strong. Your father pays a fortune for the best ingredients." Rebecca noticed something odd about Dorothy's defense. Why was she so defensive about a simple question? "Nathan, can you eat just a little bit for Aunt Rebecca?" Very slowly, she asked, deciding to observe the boy's reaction. Nathan picked up the spoon with his trembling little hands and took a small sip. Rebecca kept talking to him, but was alert for any signs. After a few spoonfuls, Nathan began to turn pale. "Aunt Rebecca, my tummy is starting to hurt," he murmured. "Oh, Nathan always complains," said Dorothy, washing the pots more vigorously than necessary. "A fussy child. In my day, children ate what was given to them, and that was that." Rebecca felt uneasy with the comment. She knew fussy children, but Nathan wasn't showing tantrums or whims. He was genuinely uncomfortable. "Let's go upstairs, sweetie," she said, picking Nathan up. "You can rest a bit." In the room, Rebecca put Nathan to bed and kept watching. Within 15 minutes, the boy was vomiting. In half an hour, he had diarrhea. In an hour, he was feverish and listless. "Does this happen every time he eats?" she asked when Daniel arrived to check on his son. "Yes. The doctors say it might be a malabsorption syndrome or something related to the digestive system, but the tests haven't shown anything conclusive." Daniel sat in the armchair by the bed, watching his son sleep restlessly. Rebecca stayed silent, but her mind was analyzing every detail. 20 years of caring for children had taught her that when something doesn't make sense medically, sometimes the answer lies in the simplest details. That night, after Nathan fell asleep, Rebecca went down quietly to the kitchen. She wanted to examine the ingredients Dorothy used in the meals. The house was silent, with only the sound of rain tapping on the windows. The pantry was organized like a laboratory. Every ingredient had its specific place, all of premium quality. Rebecca checked the spice jars, the cans of preserves, the packages of grains. Everything seemed normal. It was when she opened a higher cabinet and found a dark wooden box, similar to the one she had seen in the picture Daniel showed her about Nathan's care. Inside the box were several small jars with handwritten labels. One caught her attention: horsetail extract, for strength and growth. Rebecca knew about medicinal herbs. Her grandmother had taught her about plants since she was little. And she knew that horsetail, while having beneficial properties for adults, could be toxic to young children in certain quantities. "What are you doing here?" Rebecca was startled. Dorothy was standing at the kitchen entrance in her robe with an unfriendly expression. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Dorothy. Nathan woke up asking for water. I came to get some for him," lied Rebecca, quickly closing the cabinet. "The water is in the refrigerator, not in the cabinet," said Dorothy, approaching. "And the kitchen things are none of your business." "You're right, I'm sorry." Rebecca took a water bottle from the refrigerator. "Good night." Going up the stairs, Rebecca felt her heart racing. She had found something important, but needed to be sure before making any accusations. If she was wrong, she would lose her job and might never work in respectable households again. In the following days, Rebecca intensified her observations. She noticed that Dorothy always prepared Nathan's meals separately, seasoning everything very carefully, and she always used the dark wooden box. Rebecca also noticed that Nathan felt better when he played in the garden, away from the kitchen. It was as if the fresh air restored some of his energy. On the third day, she decided to run a test. During breakfast, she suggested that Nathan have only milk with plain cookies, nothing prepared by Dorothy. "Nathan needs proper nutrition," protested the cook. "I have orders from Mr. Harrison to prepare nutritious meals." "Just for today, Mrs. Dorothy. He's been very nauseous," insisted Rebecca. Nathan drank plain milk and ate some cookies. To everyone's surprise, he didn't get sick. On the contrary, he played more and even smiled a few times. "It was a coincidence," said Dorothy, when Rebecca mentioned the improvement. "One swallow doesn't make a summer." But Rebecca knew it wasn't a coincidence. Her experience told her she was on the right track. On the fourth day, she had a risky idea. She waited for Dorothy to go shopping and prepared Nathan's lunch herself. Nothing but white rice, grilled chicken without seasoning, and boiled carrots. Nathan ate with more appetite than he had shown in weeks, and for the first time since Rebecca arrived, he didn't get sick after the meal. "How is he?" asked Daniel when he came home from work. "Much better, Mr. Harrison. He ate everything and played the rest of the afternoon," replied Rebecca, watching his reaction. "Really?" Daniel looked at his son with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "What did he eat?" When Rebecca told him about the simple meal, Daniel became thoughtful. "But Mrs. Dorothy said he needs fortified food with vitamins and natural extracts," he murmured. "She's been taking care of the family's meals for years." Rebecca felt it was time to plant the first seed of truth. "Mr. Harrison, may I suggest something?" "Suggest? How about we ask the pediatrician to do a food allergy test?" she said carefully. "The doctors already said it's not an allergy." Daniel shook his head. "They tested for the most common allergies. But there are substances that aren't normally tested. Herbs, extracts." Rebecca chose her words carefully. "Sometimes the answer is where we least expect it." Daniel looked at her attentively for the first time since she arrived. "Do you suspect something specific?" Rebecca took a deep breath. It was risky, but she couldn't stay silent seeing Nathan suffer. "I need to show you something," she said. They went down to the kitchen together. Rebecca opened the cabinet and showed him the wooden box with the herbal extracts. "Does Mrs. Dorothy use this in Nathan's meals?" asked Daniel, examining the jars. "I believe so. Today, when I prepared a simple meal, Nathan didn't get sick." Rebecca watched his expression gradually change. "Are you suggesting that Dorothy is poisoning my son?" His voice came out louder than normal. "Not poisoning intentionally, Mr. Harrison, but perhaps using something that is harmful to him, thinking she's helping." Rebecca tried to stay calm. "Horsetail, for example, can be toxic for young children." Daniel fell silent for long minutes, looking at the jars. Rebecca could see the internal struggle he was fighting. Dorothy was almost family, had worked in the house for 15 years. Accusing her would be devastating. "I need to think," he said finally, "and I need to talk to Dorothy." Rebecca knew she had planted the seed of doubt. Now she had to hope that Daniel would have the courage to investigate. The next morning, Dorothy was visibly irritated. "Mr. Daniel asked me strange questions last night," she said to Rebecca, beating the eggs with unnecessary force. "Someone's been putting ideas in his head." Rebecca pretended not to understand, but noticed Dorothy was on the defensive. "What kind of questions?" "About the spices I use, about the herbs. As if I don't know what I'm doing after 15 years in this house." Dorothy stopped beating the eggs and stared at Rebecca. "Did you say something to him?" "I only suggested that Nathan might have some unidentified allergy," Rebecca answered honestly. "Allergy?" Dorothy laughed scornfully. "Nathan eats the highest quality food, prepared with the best natural ingredients. Herbs that strengthen, that give energy. My grandmother taught me these recipes." Rebecca felt a chill. The confirmation she needed was right there, in Dorothy's own defense. "Mrs. Dorothy, some herbs can be beneficial for adults, but harmful for young children," she said carefully. "Nonsense, natural herbs don't do harm. It's those processed things that do harm." Dorothy turned her back to Rebecca. "You young people today know nothing about ancient wisdom." Rebecca realized it was no use trying to convince Dorothy. The woman was convinced she was doing good, and that made her even more dangerous. That afternoon, while Nathan was resting, Rebecca had a long conversation with Daniel in his office. She explained her observations, her suspicions, and her experience with medicinal herbs. "Horsetail can cause exactly the symptoms Nathan is showing," she said, showing information she had researched on the house internet. "Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, digestive problems." Daniel read the scientific articles with growing attention. But why didn't the doctors think of this? Because no one specifically asked about homemade medicinal herbs. And Dorothy didn't mention it because she believes she's doing good. Rebecca chose her words carefully. She loves Nathan, Mr. Harrison. She genuinely believes she's helping. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Daniel fell silent for long minutes, processing everything he had heard. If you're right, it means that for 4 months I let my son... He couldn't finish the sentence. You didn't know, Mr. Harrison. No one knew. Dorothy acts in good faith. Rebecca tried to comfort him. What do you suggest I do? Rebecca had thought a lot about that question. First, let's do a definitive test. I'll prepare all of Nathan's meals for a week, using only simple ingredients. If he improves significantly, we'll have our answer, she said. Second, we need to talk to the pediatrician about horsetail poisoning and request specific tests. And Dorothy? For now, we won't accuse her of anything. We'll just say we want to try a simpler diet on medical advice. Rebecca had carefully planned this approach. Daniel agreed with the plan, but Rebecca could see the weight of guilt on his shoulders. The following days were a revelation. With Rebecca preparing simple meals, Nathan showed impressive improvement. On the second day, he played for 2 hours straight without tiring. On the third day, he gained half a pound. On the fourth day, he smiled and laughed for the first time in months. The transformation was so obvious that even Dorothy began to suspect. "What miracle is this?" she asked, watching Nathan playing cheerfully in the garden. "What medicine is he taking?" "No medicine, Mrs. Dorothy, just different food," replied Rebecca, watching the cook's reaction. "Different food how?" "No special seasonings, just salt, onion, and garlic." Rebecca chose to partially reveal the information. Dorothy became visibly upset. "But the herbs I use are medicinal, they're good for you. My grandmother healed everyone in the countryside with these recipes." "For adults, perhaps." "But Nathan is very small, Mrs. Dorothy." Rebecca tried to be gentle. "Are you saying I was harming Nathan?" Dorothy's voice was choked. Voice was, "Not intentionally. You wanted to help, but maybe Nathan is sensitive to some of these herbs." Dorothy began to cry. Rebecca realized the truth was being understood slowly but painfully. 15 years. 15 years caring for this family, and I was hurting the boy? Dorothy sat down heavily on a kitchen chair. "Mrs. Dorothy, you didn't know. You acted with love." Rebecca sat beside her. "The important thing is we found out now. Mr. Harrison will fire me. He'll never forgive me." Dorothy was crying harder now. "Not necessarily if we explain the situation." "No!" Dorothy stood up abruptly. "I can't stay here knowing that I nearly—" She didn't finish the sentence but ran out of the kitchen. Rebecca found Daniel a few hours later in his office, holding a letter. "Dorothy resigned," he said, his voice tired. "She left this letter confessing she used herbal extracts in Nathan's food, thinking she was helping." Rebecca read the letter. It was touching and full of remorse. Dorothy explained that her grandmother had taught her about medicinal herbs, and she always believed she was strengthening Nathan. She asks for forgiveness and says she'll never forgive herself for causing so much suffering. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. "I'll never forgive myself either." "Mr. Harrison, neither of you knew. Dorothy acted out of love. You trusted someone who loved your family. There are no guilty parties here, just an unfortunate situation that had a happy ending." Rebecca tried to comfort him. "Happy ending? My marriage ended. Nathan suffered for months. Dorothy feels guilty." Daniel seemed broken. "But Nathan is recovering, and maybe it's still possible to rebuild your family." Rebecca hesitated before continuing. "And maybe Dorothy could learn about childhood allergies and continue working here, now knowing how to properly handle meals." He looked at her in surprise. "You would defend Dorothy after all this? She made a mistake out of ignorance, not malice, and she genuinely loves Nathan. People like that are rare." Rebecca thought of her own experience. "Everyone deserves a second chance when they act in good faith." In the following days, Daniel scheduled an appointment with Dr. Michael Thompson to explain the situation. The pediatrician was impressed with Nathan's recovery and requested specific tests to confirm the horsetail poisoning. The results were conclusive. Nathan had an extreme sensitivity to horsetail, and the levels of the herb in his system perfectly explained all the symptoms he had shown. In 15 years of practice, I never thought to investigate poisoning from home remedies, admitted Dr. Michael. It was an excellent observation by the nanny. Daniel felt a mix of relief and guilt. Relief to know that Nathan would be okay, guilt for not having discovered it sooner. "Doctor, is it possible that Nathan has any permanent damage from the prolonged poisoning?" he asked, fearing the answer. Fortunately, children are very resilient. With the complete removal of the toxic substance and proper nutrition, Nathan should recover fully. The doctor smiled as he saw the boy playing animatedly in the waiting room. When they arrived home, Daniel made a decision. "Rebecca, I want you to know that I consider you an angel in our family's life," he said. "If it weren't for you, Nathan could have—" "No need to thank me, Mr. Harrison. I just did what anyone who loves children would do." Rebecca was genuinely moved. "I would like to increase your salary and offer a permanent contract. Nathan needs you." Daniel paused. "And I also need to learn to be a better father." Rebecca accepted the offer, but made a special request. "Mr. Harrison, I would like to ask you to reconsider Mrs. Dorothy. She is devastated and blaming herself for something she did unknowingly. If you allowed her to return, I could teach her about food allergies and special care for children." Daniel was surprised by the request. "Do you really believe it would be safe?" "I do. Dorothy would never do anything again without being absolutely sure it's safe, and she has known Nathan since he was a baby. This experience has made her even more careful." Rebecca had thought a lot about it. Besides, Nathan asks about her every day. It was true. Nathan, even though he was physically improving, missed the cook who had cared for him his whole life. "Where is Grandma Dot?" he would constantly ask. "Grandma Dot is resting, my love," Rebecca would reply, but she could see the sadness in the boy's eyes. After much reflection, Daniel decided to talk to Dorothy. She had taken refuge at a cousin's house in Jersey City, where she spent her days crying and lamenting. "Dorothy, I would like you to come back," Daniel said when he found her. Dorothy couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mr. Harrison, I don't deserve— I hurt Nathan," she cried. "You made a mistake out of lack of knowledge, not malice. And Nathan is fine now. He misses you." Daniel sat beside her. "But if you return, you'll have to agree to learn about food allergies from Rebecca." "I'll accept anything, anything. I'll never give Nathan anything again without asking Rebecca or you first." Dorothy clung to Daniel's hands. "I swear to God." On the day Dorothy returned, Nathan was overjoyed. "Grandma Dot!" he shouted, running to hug her. Dorothy cried as she hugged the boy, who was visibly stronger and healthier. "My boy, Grandma Dot will never make you sick again." "Never again," she murmured. Rebecca organized educational sessions with Dorothy about food allergies, plants toxic to children, and special care in preparing children's meals. Dorothy proved to be a dedicated student, taking detailed notes and asking constant questions. "Rebecca, can you teach me how to make that simple soup that Nathan liked?" Dorothy asked humbly. "Of course, Mrs. Dorothy. Let's prepare it together." Rebecca was happy to see the cook's dedication to learning. In the following months, the household dynamics changed completely. Nathan fully recovered, gaining weight and energy. Daniel began working less to spend more time with his son, and the women of the house, Rebecca and Dorothy, developed a harmonious partnership. "Rebecca," Dorothy said one day while they were preparing lunch together, "I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what, Mrs. Dorothy?" "For not judging me, for giving me a second chance, for teaching me." Dorothy wiped away tears. "I was destroying the child I love most in the world, and you helped me save him." "We saved him together, Mrs. Dorothy," Rebecca smiled. "And now we know how to keep him healthy and happy." Nathan's recovery had an unexpected effect on the family. Jennifer, Daniel's ex-wife, began visiting more frequently upon seeing their son healthy and happy. The visits evolved into conversations, the conversations into reconciliation. "Daniel, I need to apologize," Jennifer said during one of her visits. "I blamed you for Nathan's illness, but in truth neither of us knew what was happening." "Jennifer, We both suffered watching our son sick. Blame doesn't help us now." Daniel held her hand as they watched Nathan playing in the garden with Rebecca. "You hired an angel to care for our son," Jennifer observed Rebecca patiently playing with Nathan. "She saved our family." "She saved more than our family. She taught us about forgiveness, about second chances," Daniel smiled, "and about paying attention to the details that truly matter." Jennifer decided to return home gradually. First, she spent weekends, then a few days during the week, until she moved back permanently. "Rebecca, I'll never be able to thank you enough," Jennifer said. "You not only saved my son, you saved my marriage." "I just did what any mother would do," Rebecca replied. "And you did the rest, forgave, rebuilt, started over." The Harrison family became an example of how adversity can strengthen bonds when faced with love and understanding. Nathan grew up strong and healthy. Daniel and Jennifer rebuilt their marriage on firmer foundations, and Dorothy became an expert in safe children's nutrition. Rebecca, in turn, realized she had found more than a job. She had found a family that valued and respected her. She began studying child nutrition in her spare time, inspired by her experience with Nathan. "Aunt Rebecca, are you going to stay with us forever?" Nathan asked one day while she was helping with his homework. "If you want me to stay, my love," she replied, hugging the boy who had become like a son to her. "We do!" shouted Nathan and his parents in unison, making everyone laugh. Years later, Rebecca often reflected on those early days in the Harrison mansion, how a simple observation and the courage to question the obvious had saved a life and transformed a family. She continued working with the family, but also began consulting for other families with similar cases. Her experience with Nathan made her a reference in identifying undiagnosed childhood food poisonings. Dorothy, transformed by the experience, became a staunch advocate for children's food safety. She often gave talks at culinary schools about the dangers of medicinal herbs for young children. "Love isn't enough without knowledge," she always said. "I almost killed the child I love most in the world because I didn't know that love also requires wisdom." Nathan grew up healthy and happy, with no lasting effects from the prolonged poisoning. At 6 years old, he was a normal, playful and energetic child, but he never forgot the special care Rebecca took with his diet. "Aunt Rebecca, why do you always ask what I ate when I'm not feeling well?" he asked one day. "Because food can be our medicine or our poison, Nathan. And I always want to make sure you're taking the right medicine," explained Rebecca, simplifying it for his age. "You're like a food detective," Nathan laughed, hugging her. "Exactly. I'm a detective who takes care of you," Rebecca smiled, thinking how perfect that childlike definition was. The Harrison family's story spread quietly among the wealthy families of New York. Rebecca began receiving job offers from other families who had heard about her observational skills and dedication. "Rebecca, I have an invitation for you," Daniel said one day. "Dr. Michael wants you to give a lecture at the pediatrics conference on behavioral observation in cases of undiagnosed poisoning." Rebecca felt nervous about the proposal. "Mr. Daniel, I'm not a doctor. I just observe children with care. That's exactly why your lecture will be valuable. You see things that doctors with all their technical training sometimes miss," Daniel encouraged. "And your experience could save other children." Rebecca accepted the invitation, and her lecture was a success. She spoke about the importance of careful observation, valuing children's complaints, and investigating all possibilities, including the most unlikely ones. "A child who says their stomach always hurts after eating isn't being fussy," she told an audience of 200 pediatricians. "They're giving a valuable clue that could save their life." After the lecture, several doctors approached Rebecca to consult her about similar cases. She became a bridge between traditional medicine and experienced maternal observation. "Rebecca, have you ever thought about studying nutrition in college?" suggested Dr. Michael. "With your practical experience and theoretical training, you'd be exceptional." Rebecca considered the suggestion seriously. At 30 years old, she had enough experience to know she wanted to dedicate her life to helping children and families. "If I go to college, would you support me?" she asked the Harrison family. "We'd pay for your college," Daniel exclaimed immediately. "It's the least we can do." No, Mr. Daniel, I don't want you to pay, but if you'd allow a flexible schedule for me to study. Rebecca took pride in her independence. Of course. And you can use our case as a case study in college if you'd like, offered Jennifer. Rebecca enrolled in the nutrition program at Columbia University. She studied at night and on weekends, always with the Harrison family's support. Nathan, now 5 years old, was proud of his Aunt Rebecca doctor. Aunt Rebecca is going to become a doctor like the doctor who takes care of me, he'd tell his little friends. Not exactly, sweetheart. I'm going to study about food and how it affects people, Rebecca explained. To save other children like you saved me, Nathan asked with childhood innocence. Exactly, sweetheart, to save other children. During college, Rebecca developed her thesis on poisoning by medicinal herbs in children, a case study. Her work became a reference in the field and was published in specialized journals. Professor Richard Campbell, her advisor, was impressed with the quality of her research. Rebecca, your practical experience combined with scientific rigor resulted in exceptional work, he praised. Have you ever thought about pursuing a master's degree? Professor, I just want to help children and families. I don't know if academic life is for me, Rebecca answered honestly. You could do both. Research at the university and maintain your clinical practice. It would be a powerful combination, the professor suggested. Rebecca considered the proposal. She had discovered she enjoyed researching and teaching, but didn't want to lose direct contact with families. Let me finish my undergraduate degree first, she decided. When Rebecca graduated, the Harrison family organized a celebration party. Nathan, now 7 years old, gave a moving speech. Aunt Rebecca saved me when I was very sick. Now she became a doctor to save other children too. I'm very proud of my Aunt Rebecca, he said, making everyone cry. Nathan, you were my first and most important teacher, Rebecca replied, hugging the boy. You taught me that love and knowledge together can work miracles. After graduation, Rebecca received several job offers, hospitals, private clinics, specialized practices, but she chose to create her own children's nutrition center, focused on complex and undiagnosed cases. Why not accept one of the offers? They would pay very well, asked Daniel. Because I want to work with families like yours, families who are desperate and need someone who truly cares, explained Rebecca. And I want to train other professionals to do the same. The Rebecca Mitchell Children's Nutrition Center opened 2 years later, in a modest building in the Upper East Side neighborhood. Rebecca hired a small but dedicated team, a pediatrician, a nurse, and a social worker. Our goal isn't to replace doctors, Rebecca explained to her team. It's to complement medical care with detailed observation and investigation of unconventional possibilities. The center's first case was a 4-year-old girl with symptoms similar to Nathan's. Within a week, Rebecca identified that the child was being poisoned by honey contaminated with botulinum toxin. How did you know? Asked the girl's mother, impressed. Experience and attention to detail, replied Rebecca, and never giving up on finding answers. Word spread quickly about Rebecca's work. Families from across the country began seeking out the center for cases that conventional doctors couldn't solve. Rebecca also maintained her connection with the Harrison family. Nathan, now 9 years old, often visited the center and helped with the younger children. Aunt Rebecca, can I tell them how you cured me? Nathan would ask. Yes, my dear. Your story can give hope to other families, Rebecca would answer. Nathan became a sort of mascot for the center. His complete recovery and cheerful personality inspired both the professionals and the families served. If I hadn't gotten sick, Aunt Rebecca wouldn't be a doctor, Nathan reflected. So maybe my illness was good for other children. Your illness taught all of us a lot, Nathan. But what really made the difference was how you faced everything with courage. Rebecca always got emotional at the boy's maturity. 5 years after the center opened, Rebecca had served more than 500 families. Her success rate in identifying undiagnosed causes was impressive, 78%. Rebecca, you've become a national reference, commented Dr. Michael during a visit to the center. Universities are studying your methods. My methods are simple. Listen, observe, and never stop searching, replied Rebecca. Anyone can learn. But not everyone has your dedication and maternal instinct, countered the doctor. Rebecca had realized that her maternal instinct was actually a combination of experience, knowledge, and genuine concern for children's well-being. It was something that could be taught and learned. Therefore, she began offering extension courses for parents, caregivers, and healthcare professionals. The courses covered behavioral observation, warning signs in children, and how to ask the right questions. Nathan was giving all the clues, Rebecca would say in her lectures. He said his stomach hurt after eating. He showed reluctance at mealtimes. He felt better away from the kitchen. We just needed to be attentive and take their complaints seriously. One of the students in the courses was Dorothy, who became an expert in child food safety. "Rebecca, I wanted to thank you once again," said Dorothy after one of the classes. "You turned my mistake into knowledge that can help other people." "Mrs. Dorothy, your experience is valuable exactly because you lived through what can happen. That makes you a very special teacher," replied Rebecca. Dorothy began giving lectures on safe food care for children at culinary schools and community centers. Her emotional and personal approach deeply touched people. "I almost killed a child out of ignorance," she always began her lectures. "Don't let this happen to you. Love isn't enough without knowledge." The Harrison family remained united and strong. Daniel and Jennifer renewed their wedding vows on the 10th anniversary of Nathan's recovery, with Rebecca as the matron of honor. 10 years ago, our family was torn apart, Daniel spoke at the ceremony. A brave and observant woman taught us that sometimes the answers are right in front of us. We just need the courage to question them. Nathan, now 13 years old, was a healthy and intelligent teenager. He showed interest in medicine and often expressed the desire to help children like Rebecca had helped him. "Aunt Rebecca, when I grow up, I want to work with you," he said. "Nathan, you can be whatever you want, but if you choose to help children, you'll be welcome on the team," replied Rebecca, proud of the boy who had become an admirable young man. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out, now continuing. As the years passed, Rebecca expanded her activities. She began working with international cases, offering online consultations for families from other countries. Her method of systematic behavioral observation was being studied at American and European universities. "Rebecca, Harvard wants you to spend a semester there as a visiting professor," Dr. Michael informed during one of his regular visits to the center. "Visiting professor, me?" Rebecca couldn't believe it. "They want to study your observation protocols and systematize your method for international medical education," he explained. Rebecca considered the offer carefully. It was an incredible opportunity, but it would mean leaving her center and the Harrison family for 6 months. "Go," encouraged Daniel when she shared the opportunity. "Nathan is grown now, we're fine, and your experience could benefit children worldwide." "But the center has an excellent team that you trained, and 6 months will pass quickly," insisted Jennifer. Nathan, now 15, was the most enthusiastic of all. "Aunt Rebecca, you're going to teach American doctors, that's amazing," he exclaimed. Rebecca accepted the offer and spent 6 months in Boston, working with Harvard researchers on developing behavioral observation protocols for complex pediatric diagnoses. "Your method is revolutionary because it combines scientific rigor with maternal intuition," commented Dr. Sarah Williams, head of the pediatrics department. "Many doctors focus so much on tests that they forget to observe the child as a whole." During her stay at Harvard, Rebecca published 3 scientific papers that became worldwide references in the field. Her systematic behavioral observation protocol began being taught in medical schools across various countries. "I miss Nathan and the Harrison family," Rebecca confessed to Dr. Williams. "They are my inspiration and my reason for doing this work." "That emotional bond is exactly what makes your work special," replied the doctor. "You haven't lost your humanity in the midst of science." When Rebecca returned to the United States, she found the center running perfectly, and the Harrison family more united than ever. Nathan had grown and was beginning to show impressive leadership traits and maturity. "What was it like meeting other doctors, Aunt Rebecca?" asked Nathan, now taller than her. "It was incredible, but there's no place like home," Rebecca replied, hugging the teenager. and there's no family like ours." "Our family?" Nathan smiled. "Our family," Rebecca confirmed. Rebecca realized that over the years she had found much more than a job. She had found a life purpose, a family of the heart, and a way to transform a traumatic experience into something positive for the world. Nathan's case became a landmark in medical literature. Universities worldwide used his story as an example of the importance of attentive observation and valuing children's complaints. "I never imagined our pain would turn into hope for so many families," Jennifer commented during one of the annual gatherings the family held to celebrate Nathan's recovery. "Suffering only makes sense when it can prevent others' suffering," Rebecca philosophized. "Nathan suffered, but his story has already saved hundreds of children." Nathan, now studying for his medical school entrance exams, had become an exceptional young man. He demonstrated compassion, intelligence, and a maturity that impressed everyone who met him. "Aunt Rebecca, I want to specialize in pediatrics and work with complex cases like mine," he declared during his 18th birthday celebration dinner. "Nathan, you would be an exceptional doctor. You understand the perspective of a sick child like no other professional could," Rebecca replied, moved. "What if I don't pass the entrance exam?" "You will, and if not on the first try, you will on the second." "Determination and perseverance are qualities you've shown since you were 3 years old," Rebecca smiled. "Remember how you never gave up, even when you were very sick?" "I remember that you never gave up on me," Nathan corrected. "We never gave up on each other." Rebecca hugged the young man who had become a son to her. Nathan passed the Columbia University Medical School entrance exam with one of the highest scores. During the interview, when asked about his motivation to study medicine, he told his story eloquently and emotionally. "I want to be the kind of doctor who listens to children, who values their complaints, and who never gives up searching for answers," he said. "I want to be like the woman who saved me." Nathan's journey in medicine was brilliant. He excelled not only academically, but especially in his ability to connect with pediatric patients. Children trusted him instinctively. During his internship, Nathan worked with Rebecca on several complex cases. The partnership between them was extraordinary. He with formal medical knowledge, she with maternal experience and intuition. "Nathan, you have a natural gift for pediatrics," commented Dr. Michael, who had been following his academic progress. "I learned from the best teacher," Nathan replied, looking at Rebecca with gratitude. "We learned from each other," Rebecca corrected. When Nathan graduated, Rebecca's center had become an international reference. Families from over 20 countries sought their services, and Rebecca had trained more than 200 professionals in her behavioral observation method. "Rebecca, I have a proposal for you," Nathan said on his graduation day. "How about we open a clinic together? You with your experience, me with my medical training?" Rebecca was moved by the proposal. It was as if the cycle was coming full circle. "Nathan, it would be an honor to work with you," she replied. "But are you sure you want to partner with a nutritionist without a medical degree? Aunt Rebecca, you saved my life when I was 3 years old. You developed protocols that are taught at Harvard. You are recognized worldwide for your expertise." Nathan held her hands. "I would be honored to be your partner." The Harrison Mitchell Clinic opened 2 years later, combining specialized medical care with systematic behavioral observation. The clinic quickly became a reference in complex pediatric cases. "Our difference is that we treat the child as a whole," Nathan explained to a medical journal. "Not just the symptoms, but the behavior, the environment, the complete history. And we never underestimate what the child has to tell us," Rebecca added. "Children are the best source of information about their own bodies." The clinic handled everything from simple to the most complex cases. Nathan and Rebecca complemented each other perfectly. He providing precise medical diagnoses, she identifying the behavioral patterns that often went unnoticed. "You two make an incredible team," commented Daniel, now a proud grandfather of 2 grandchildren that Nathan had brought into the world. "We learned early on that teamwork saves lives," replied Rebecca, watching Nathan examine a child with the patience and care she had taught him. "And that love and knowledge together work miracles," Nathan added. 25 years after the discovery that saved Nathan's life, Rebecca reflected on her journey. From an experienced nanny, she had become a world-renowned nutritionist, university professor, and a reference in complex pediatric diagnoses. "I never imagined my life would take this turn," she commented to Dorothy, who at 70 still cooked for the Harrison family, now specializing in safe children's meals. "God had bigger plans for you, Rebecca," Dorothy replied. "You saved Nathan, but you also saved me, his family, and hundreds of other families. And you taught me that everyone deserves a second chance." Rebecca hugged the woman who had become a great friend over the years. Nathan, now a renowned 38-year-old pediatrician, had married a pediatric nurse who shared his passion for helping children. They had 2 children who called Rebecca Grandma and who constantly heard the story of how she had saved Daddy when he was little. "Grandma Rebecca, tell us again how you found out that Daddy was sick because of the food," asked Emma, Nathan's 5-year-old daughter. "Once upon a time there was a nanny who loved a very sick little child very much," Rebecca began, always willing to tell the story that had shaped her life. During one of the annual Harrison family gatherings, now expanded with daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, and grandchildren, Daniel gave an emotional speech. 25 years ago, a young nanny came to our home and saved much more than my son's life," he said. His voice choked. "She saved our family, taught us about forgiveness, second chances, and the importance of never giving up on finding answers. Rebecca became much more than our employee. She is part of our family, our inspiration, and our example that a determined person can change the world," continued Jennifer. "And the most amazing thing is that it all started with a simple observation. A child who didn't want to eat and said his stomach hurt." Nathan held Rebecca's hand. "That taught me that in medicine, as in life, the most important answers often come from the simplest details." Rebecca, now 55, looked at all those people around her. The Harrison family had become her family. Nathan had become her heart's son, and her experience had transformed into a life's mission. "You gave me so much more than I gave you," she said emotionally. "You gave me a purpose, a family, and the opportunity to turn a difficult situation into something positive for the world. And you taught us that sometimes angels arrive disguised as nannies," joked Nathan, making everyone laugh and cry at the same time. That night, Rebecca reflected on life's unpredictable paths. A young nanny who accepted a job in a mansion had become a world-renowned professional. A sick boy had become a dedicated doctor. A cook who nearly caused a tragedy had become a food safety specialist. "Sometimes what seems like the end is just the beginning of something much bigger," she thought, looking at the family photos hanging in her apartment. Rebecca continued working until she was 65, when she decided to retire to dedicate herself to her heart's grandchildren and writing her memoirs. Her book, The Boy Who Taught Me to See, became an international bestseller, inspiring a new generation of healthcare professionals. "Aunt Rebecca, your book is being translated into 15 languages, informed Nathan, now the director of pediatrics at the hospital where he worked. "It's incredible to think that our story can inspire people worldwide," Rebecca smiled. "Who would have thought those difficult first days would turn into all this?" "Suffering has meaning when it can prevent the suffering of others," Nathan repeated a phrase he had learned from her years ago. On a Sunday autumn afternoon, 3 decades after her arrival at the Harrison mansion, Rebecca was in her garden when she received a special call. "Rebecca, this is Dr. James Thompson from the World Health Organization. We're organizing a World Congress on Pediatric Diagnostics and would like to invite you as the keynote speaker." Rebecca accepted the invitation and, at 68, presented her experience to an audience of 2,000 healthcare professionals from 80 countries. "Medicine saved my life several times," began her speech, with Nathan in the front row. "But it was attentive observation and unconditional love that saved me when I was a child. Never underestimate the power of human dedication combined with scientific knowledge." After the lecture, hundreds of professionals approached Rebecca to thank her and share their own experiences. She realized her story had become much bigger than herself. It had become a symbol of hope for families and professionals worldwide. "Rebecca, you touched everyone's heart here today," commented Dr. Thompson. Your story proves that sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the simplest observation. And from the purest love, completed Rebecca, thinking of the 3-year-old boy who had changed her life forever. Nathan, now a father of 3 and internationally recognized for his work in pediatrics, was often asked about his professional motivation. "My motivation has a name, Rebecca Mitchell," he always answered. "She taught me that caring for children is a sacred privilege and that we should never stop searching for answers, no matter how difficult the questions." The Harrison Mitchell Clinic had transformed into a medical complex with 3 units, serving over 10,000 children per year. The behavioral observation protocol developed by Rebecca was used in hospitals across 50 countries. "I never imagined that rainy March morning would change so many lives," reflected Rebecca during one of her final consultations before definitive retirement. "A single observation can save a life. A single saved life can change the world," philosophized Nathan. "You proved that, Aunt Rebecca." On the day of her retirement at 70, Rebecca received an unforgettable tribute. The hospital auditorium was packed with healthcare professionals, families she had helped over the years, former students and colleagues. Nathan gave a moving speech. "Rebecca Mitchell came to our home as a nanny. But she was so much more than that. She was an angel in disguise, a teacher in disguise, a savior in disguise. She gave me not just life, but life's purpose. And through me and the hundreds of others she trained, she continues to save lives every day. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing," Rebecca spoke, visibly moved. "Every challenge, every discovery, every tear was worth it. You taught me that true success in life isn't measured by titles or recognition, but by the number of lives we manage to touch positively." "And you've touched thousands of lives," someone shouted from the audience, starting a 5-minute ovation. Dorothy, now 80 but still sharp and active, made sure to be present at the tribute. "Rebecca taught me that mistakes can turn into wisdom when embraced with humility," she said emotionally. "And that true love sometimes means having the courage to question what we believe is right." Daniel and Jennifer, now proud grandparents, also spoke. "Rebecca didn't just save our son, she saved our family, taught us about forgiveness, and showed us that sometimes angels arrive when we least expect them," said Daniel. "And that a courageous woman can change the course of many lives," Jennifer added. The celebration continued into the night, with testimonials from families across the United States and messages from professionals from various countries. Rebecca realized her journey had far exceeded her most optimistic expectations. During her retirement years, Rebecca dedicated herself to writing, traveling, and spending time with the extended family she had gained. She visited schools to tell her story, inspiring young people to pursue careers in child health. "Aunt Rebecca, do you think I'll be a good doctor like Dad?" asked Ethan, Nathan's youngest son, who was 12. "Ethan, you can be anything you want. Doctor, engineer, teacher, artist. What matters is doing it with love and dedication," Rebecca replied, stroking the boy's hair. "But I want to help sick children like Dad did." "Then you already have the most important thing, the desire to help. Life teaches the rest," Rebecca smiled, remembering a similar conversation she had had with Nathan years before. At 75, Rebecca was still consulted by professionals worldwide about complex cases. Her mind remained sharp, and her passion for helping children unshakable. "Rebecca, there's a consultation request from a Japanese family. They want a video consultation about a case no doctor has been able to solve," Nathan informed her during one of his weekly visits. "Of course, schedule it. A sick child has no nationality," Rebecca replied immediately. "At 75, don't you think about resting?" "Nathan, I'll rest when there are no more children needing help," Rebecca smiled. "Which means never." Nathan laughed, recognizing in her response the same determination that had saved his life decades ago. The Japanese case proved similar to Nathan's, a 4-year-old child with unexplained digestive symptoms. After 2 weeks of remote observation and detailed questionnaires, Rebecca identified that the child was being poisoned by concentrated green tea that the grandmother prepared to strengthen her grandson. "How can you do this even from a distance?" the Japanese mother asked through the video conference, visibly emotional seeing her son improve. 45 years of experience taught me that patterns are universal. Sick children behave similarly anywhere in the world. The secret is knowing what to look for, explained Rebecca. You saved my son without even touching him, sobbed the mother. A mother's love knows no borders. I just helped you find the answers that were already within you, replied Rebecca, remembering all the desperate mothers she had helped over the years. Nathan watched Rebecca's consultations with the same admiration as always. Even decades later, she continued to surprise him with her powers of observation and intuition. Aunt Rebecca, sometimes I think you have a supernatural gift, he commented after the Japanese consultation. Nathan, there's nothing supernatural about what I do. There's experience, knowledge, attention to detail, and most importantly, genuine love for children, Rebecca explained patiently. Anyone can develop these skills. But not everyone has your heart, Nathan hugged her. And you're living proof that it's always worth never giving up. Rebecca returned the hug. At 80 years old, Rebecca finally decided to stop international consultations, but remained active locally. She began dedicating more time to writing, documenting interesting cases and methodologies for future generations. Her second book, Lessons from a Life Dedicated to Children, became required reading in medical schools across several countries. The book compiled 50 real cases she had solved, with detailed analyses of her observation methods. Rebecca, your legacy goes far beyond what you imagine, commented Dr. Michael, now retired, during one of his visits. My greatest legacy has a name, Nathan Harrison, replied Rebecca, watching through the window as Nathan played in the garden with his own children. Your legacy is all the children saved by the professionals you trained, corrected the doctor. It's the protocols you developed, the methods you systematized, the families you reconnected, and the proof that an ordinary person can do extraordinary things when moved by love, completed Rebecca. Nathan visited Rebecca every Sunday, always accompanied by his children. The boys loved listening to Grandma Rebecca's stories and dreamed of following in her footsteps in medicine. Grandma Rebecca, when I grow up, I want to be like Dad and you, declared Ethan, now 15. Ethan, you should be like yourself, unique, special, and dedicated to whatever you choose to do, advised Rebecca. What matters isn't the profession, but the love with which you practice it. But I want to help sick children. Then you already have the most important thing, the right motivation, Rebecca smiled, seeing in Ethan the same determination she had seen in Nathan years before. At 82 years old, Rebecca received a visit from a UNESCO delegation that wanted to document her methodology for a worldwide child health training project. Dr. Mitchell, your protocols are being implemented in countries across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. They've already saved thousands of lives, informed the UNESCO representative. It's comforting to know that a painful experience has turned into hope for so many families, replied Rebecca thoughtfully. Would you like to record testimonies for the documentary we're producing? Rebecca agreed to participate in the documentary, which would be broadcast worldwide and used to train healthcare professionals in developing countries. My story proves that we don't need to be geniuses to make a difference, she said during the recording. We just need to genuinely care and never stop looking for answers. The documentary, The Boy and the Nanny, A Lesson in Observation, won several international awards and was translated into 30 languages. Nathan watched the documentary with tears in his eyes. Aunt Rebecca, seeing our story being told to the world moves me deeply, he said. You transformed a moment of pain into a lesson of universal hope. Nathan, our story isn't about me or you. It's about what we can achieve when we don't give up on each other. Rebecca held his hand. It's about family, love, forgiveness, and second chances. Dorothy, at 90 years old but still mentally alert, was also interviewed for the documentary. Her participation was one of the most touching. I almost destroyed a child out of ignorance, she said, her voice trembling but firm. But Rebecca taught me that mistakes can turn into wisdom when embraced with humility. Today, at 90 years old, I still teach about child food safety, because I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. Mrs. Dorothy's transformation is one of the most beautiful aspects of our story, commented Rebecca. She proves that it's never too late to learn and reinvent yourself. During her last active years, Rebecca received numerous recognitions. Universities offered honorary degrees, international organizations created awards in her name, and a children's hospital in New York was named after her. "Dr. Mitchell, how would you like to be remembered?" asked a journalist during her last public interview. "As a woman who loved children and never gave up searching for answers," she replied simply. "As someone who proved that careful observation and genuine love can save lives." And what advice would you leave for future generations of professionals? Listen to children, observe the details, never underestimate maternal intuition, and never stop searching for answers no matter how unlikely they may seem. Rebecca looked directly at the camera. A seemingly simple question can reveal the most complex solution. Nathan, now 53 years old and recognized worldwide for his contributions to pediatrics, remained Rebecca's greatest source of pride and joy. "Aunt Rebecca, I have a surprise for you," he said during a special visit. "The hospital decided to create a research institute in your honor, Rebecca Mitchell Institute of Pediatric Behavioral Observation." Rebecca was moved by the tribute, but her response was characteristic of her humility. "Nathan, the real tribute is seeing you saving lives every day. It's knowing that our experience continues to help other families. It's seeing that love can truly transform the world." The Rebecca Mitchell Institute was inaugurated on her 85th birthday, with healthcare professionals from around the world in attendance. Nathan was appointed chairman, ensuring that Rebecca's philosophy and methods were preserved and continuously developed. "This institute will be a center of excellence in pediatric behavioral observation," Nathan spoke at the inauguration. "But more than that, it will be a temple of love for children, following the example of the woman who taught me that saving one life is saving an entire world." Rebecca, at 85 years old, still lucid and active, cut the inauguration ribbon surrounded by hundreds of people whose lives she had touched directly or indirectly. "I never imagined that rainy March morning would result in all this," she murmured to Nathan. "Aunt Rebecca, you planted a seed of love and knowledge. This institute is just one of the many trees that have grown from that seed," replied Nathan, moved. In the final years of her life, Rebecca lived surrounded by the love of the Harrison family and the gratitude of thousands of people around the world. Her methodologies continued saving lives, her teachings trained new professionals, and her story inspired families in difficult times. "Rebecca, you've had a full and meaningful life," commented Daniel, now 85 years old, during one of their last conversations. "Daniel, I've had more than a full life. I've had the privilege of being part of your family and seeing Nathan become the extraordinary man he is today." Rebecca smiled. "I've had the privilege of turning a painful experience into something positive for the world." "And we've had the privilege of having an angel in our lives," replied Daniel. Nathan spent the last years of Rebecca's life visiting her daily, always grateful for being raised by two exceptional mothers, the biological one and the one of the heart. "Aunt Rebecca, do you want to know something?" he said during one of their last conversations. "What, my dear?" "If I had to get sick again to have you in my life, I would choose to get sick." Nathan held her hand. "Nathan, you gave me much more than I gave you. You taught me the true meaning of unconditional love," Rebecca squeezed his hand, "and showed me that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as the biggest challenges." Rebecca passed away peacefully at 87, surrounded by Nathan and the entire Harrison family. Her funeral brought together thousands of people from around the world, all united by gratitude for a woman who had dedicated her life to saving and protecting children. Nathan gave the final speech. "Rebecca Mitchell came into our lives as a nanny, but left as so much more. She was a mother, teacher, savior, inspiration. She proved that one person driven by love can change the world. And although she is no longer physically with us, her legacy will live forever through the thousands of lives she touched, and the thousands more that will be touched by the professionals she inspired." On Rebecca's tombstone, Nathan had a simple but powerful phrase engraved: "She loved children and never gave up on saving lives. The world is better because she existed." The Rebecca Mitchell Institute continued to grow after her passing, becoming a global reference in pediatric behavioral observation. Nathan kept Rebecca's philosophy alive, Love, observation, persistence, and humility. Every year on Rebecca's birthday, the Harrison family gathers to tell her story to the new generations. Ethan, Nathan's son, followed in his father's footsteps and became a pediatrician, specializing in complex, undiagnosed cases. "Grandpa Daniel, tell the story of Grandma Rebecca again," asks Emma, Daniel's great-granddaughter and Nathan's granddaughter. "Once upon a time, there was a brave woman who saved a sick boy with the power of observation and love," Daniel would begin, always willing to keep the memory of the woman who saved his family alive. The story of Rebecca and Nathan became a legend in global pediatric medicine. Universities teach the Rebecca Mitchell protocol. Hospitals apply her methodologies, and families find hope in her journey. More than a story of medical discovery, it became a story about the importance of love, careful observation, perseverance, and the courage to question the obvious. A story that proves that sometimes the most important answers are right in front of us, waiting only for someone to have the wisdom and courage to see them. Nathan, now a grandfather and emeritus professor of pediatrics, often ends his lectures with the words Rebecca always said. "Remember, a child who says something is wrong is rarely lying. Our duty is to listen, observe, and never stop searching for answers. Love combined with knowledge can work miracles. And sometimes a miracle is all a family needs to start over." And so the story of a brave nanny and a sick boy continues to inspire the world, proving that true love and tireless dedication can turn tragedies into triumphs, and that a single careful observation can save not just one life but many generations of lives. The legacy of Rebecca Mitchell lives on forever through the children saved, the families reunited, and the professionals inspired by her extraordinary journey. Because sometimes heroes arrive disguised as nannies, and miracles happen through the simplest observation made with the purest heart. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this moving story? Leave a comment sharing which part touched you the most and whether you believe Rebecca made the right decisions. Your opinion is very important to us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will touch your heart. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love and hope.